All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another incredible episode of the Gale Show. Jim is out in the field today. I know he's over at Gulf's Landing, and as soon as he can, he'll hop in and join us here on the show. But first, before we kick it off to him, we got Tania, the herbalist, with us today. She's also from Ottawa, where I used to live, and still I'm about an hour away from Ottawa now. And Tania has been a very strong voice in the local area as we've been going through some of the drama of the past 3 years. And I wanted to make sure I had a chance to speak with her, bring her on the show. So Tania, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Matthew.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, to kick us off, why don't you let everybody know a little bit about you and your business and how we ended up here today?
Well, I guess, yeah, I'm known as Tania the Herbalist. I started off in the health and wellness industry, 2018, when I saw my mother nearly die because of the pharmaceutical industry pretty much left her on her deathbed. And that's kind of how I got into the natural healing world. And so I was kind of aware about the pharmaceutical corruption and everything that was going on over the last, 5, 6, 7 years. And then COVID happened. And when that happened, I was like, oh my goodness, like I totally see exactly what's going on. Like you can't tell me, a pharmaceutical drug or injection is going to come out and all of a sudden save humanity. At this point, I had, been practicing, holistic health and different ways of staying healthy. So I was kind of aware of it. And yeah, like essentially when that all happened, I had a first video in April of 2020 that went viral by me just pretty much sharing like, hey, like if you think the government cares about your health, why is there fluoride in your water? Why is there microplastics in your water? Why is there chlorine? Why is there this? Why is there that? Why is there and it just blew up. And half of them were like, oh my God, I totally agree with you. I love you for saying this. And the other half was like, oh my God, you're a danger to society. There's a virus going on right now, like trash talking. And so that's kind of how that happened. And so I naturally, because I feel like in the last 3 years, people have really opened up to the dynamic of like, oh my God, I need to empower myself to know more about how to heal myself, how to be healthy, how to empower myself. And so that's when I had the products created for like, medicinal herb guides and how to empower yourself through natural medicine and how you can actually use natural medicine instead of pill form and actually heal minus the side effects. So I did that. And then when the mandates came out and I had so many people like losing their jobs and reaching out to me and stuff, I started to cultivate a community where I essentially now bring people and show them ways of building an online wellness business and how you can monetize that, by building your social media audience and how to nurture, create digital products using just your passion and your knowledge that you've gained in the health and wellness industry. So that's my baby now, is because I'm like, there's only so much that I can teach people about healing because there's so many dynamics.
Yes.
So now I empower other healers because there's so many, like there's a holistic vet that I work with, a psychiatrist who wants to, relinquish her license so that she can actually heal people the way she wants to. So many ways of healing that is, empowering them to be like, create businesses, empower yourself, get online. Let's leverage the online world because that's the way things are going, and empower people to be able to heal themselves and know what tools they have. So that's kind of how the transition happened over time, where as much as we can, we need to know how to heal ourselves, how to pay ourselves, and how to kind of live, for ourselves, by ourselves as much as we can.
Yes, exactly. So what were you doing before 2018?
I was in the corporate world. I was in like the sales and marketing industry and the insurance industry forever.
Oh,
And I was actually still doing it when I had started my business. I didn't just full blown quit when I did my business because I was like, if that could pay for my business, I'll do that.
yeah.
And then eventually I got to a point where I'm like, I created a successful enough business that I was like, I'm quitting my daytime job. So
And then made the transition kind of right away. I love how you saw your impact and how great that could be, but then realized I can make an exponential impact by empowering other people who are thinking
exactly.
like me and
Exactly.
help them reach a larger audience. Because that really is today so critical, right? We are at a junction point where it's been seen as like competition is the way, right? We got to keep what we know to ourselves so we can have that edge up on somebody else. And
Exactly.
it's not that. Competition has been a big lie. innovation comes from collaboration,
Right.
right? The more we cooperate and communicate and support one another and work as a community towards common things, the more successful we can all be. You know,
Exactly.
you've probably heard that
Yeah, a lot of
analogy.
people think like, oh, I'm so scared to share the knowledge because it's going to take away from my pocket, not realizing like, no, more abundance comes in different ways by helping other people. Like there's only so much I can do myself, and I
Yeah.
don't do it for just myself. I feel like there's a greater purpose and we need more of us doing that.
So diving into herbalism,
Mhm.
what attracted you to that specifically?
So like I said, my mother has a rare condition called neurofibromatosis. So it's super
Okay.
painful. And she was on narcotics, everything from oxy, Ziplicone, sleeping pills, like all types of narcotics you could think about.
Wow.
And she, after years and a decade of taking that, she literally was just plummeting. And I get like my fierceness, my energy, my and like all of that, I get that from her. So to see her like in her deathbed, essentially, where you can't even have a conversation, she was no longer really coherent with you. And so I got to a point where I was grieving my mom while she was physically still alive.
Mm,
And that's when I had my breaking point. It was actually in 2017 when it was kind of like pretty bad in terms of like I was having like a total mental breakdown, being like, I don't know what to do. I feel helpless. Like I want to do something for her. I was at my peak in my corporate job, making like
interesting.
multiple six figures, traveling the world, paid for by the company, all that stuff. Yet I felt my unhappiest, like that's the point when I realized the money is just not making me happy if I'm not like feeling like some kind of fulfillment. And so I had a breakdown. I took time off of work and I just started to like meditate and try and sit by nature every single day for like a week straight. And I had never meditated before, so I never really understood the power behind it of just like quieting your mind from being your worst enemy. And I'm super hyperactive person, so meditation was like, oh, my brain never stops. But I guess it's like something that you don't realize, where having like 2 seconds of like quiet time in your mind is so much longer than real time. And so I guess I just had this aha moment sitting in nature, being like, there's something natural for her. There must be something natural for her. And so I went and I grabbed my very first book on medicinal herbs, and I took pen and paper, old school, and went to the same place in nature. And I just started reading as much as I can about the nervous system, because it was a neurological disease that she's dealing with in her nervous system. So I was just writing as much as I can. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, oh my goodness, how do people not know about this knowledge? How do they not know that this was derived from this and this was derived from this? And I can't believe that they suppressed this information when Rockefeller took over. And then just the snowball effect just really went crazy. And she became my guinea pig. And she was like, whatever you want to do, like, I'll pretty much do that. And she managed to get off of all of her narcotics, which obviously I'm sure, if like you're taking oxys for like a decade, doctors are like, you're on it for life. And many people are on it because it's a synthetic heroin. Like it's addictive, very addictive.
Yeah.
And she got off of it. And so once she got off of that, like, she still has her pain, she still has her disease, because there's, healing is a different dynamic. But once she got off of those narcotics and the pharmaceuticals, it's like she was talking again, she was laughing again, she was going out again, she was like herself again. And
Hmm.
so I just ran with it from there, realizing that like it just opened up my brain to a whole sense of healing. And the pharmaceutical industry is maybe there as like a temporary fix or when you need it for emergencies. But other than that, that's not the form of healing. And that's kind of how I got into herbalism, and I just ran with it. And then I registered to a program and I had graduated, and then the research and the studying and the reading never really stopped.
I heard you as you're talking there that the pharmaceutical industry, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but they will find an ingredient in a medicinal plant, isolate it, make a synthetic version of it, right?
And then
And
it's
then
patentable.
it's patentable. That's
Correct.
something really important for people to know.
Yeah, because you can't patent what comes from nature. You can't patent plants and stuff like that. You can't really profit off of it. And some people are like, yeah, you can profit off of plants. What? Making a couple of dollars if you were to sell a bag is not really profitable. But that's exactly it. Like one of my biggest sellers for the longest time, I was selling herbs on my website, and I still do. It's obviously not my primary focus, but I want to try to make it available to people. So I empower them to know what they can use and go and find it, is like white willow bark. So that's the active ingredient in aspirin. That's what aspirin is derived from. And white willow bark works in like as quickly as 10 to 15 minutes, not to be used for kids because it's similar to aspirin, right? But like people are like, oh, it's not just pharmaceuticals. Well, I consider Tylenol and Advil and all that stuff is similar too.
Oh,
Horrible,
absolutely. That's
you
exactly
know?
what it is. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Tylenol being the number one cause of liver failure, 100
yeah,
plus thousand hospitalizations every single year from that. And people don't even make the connection where they're like, why does this child have liver failure or need a liver replacement? Well, if your child has a fever and you're panicking, which fevers are healthy, and you're panicking and you're giving them a bunch of Tylenol when they have a developing body, yeah, it can cause liver failure.
yeah.
100%. And so white willow
Yeah.
bark is a good alternative to like pain and stuff like that. But there's other things that you can do too. So it's just about knowing better, doing better. But we've just,
Yeah.
if you see it on the shelf, it must be safe, but it's not. Tylenol has a black box warning and people don't even, realize that.
I don't even think people read labels most of the time,
Right.
truthfully.
If the doctor says it's
The
safe, it
warnings are
must be.
there. And the doctors are the same. Everybody's
Yeah,
just telling the story that they were told by somebody else.
that's
You
right.
know, we're so quick to turn to those things too, like a Tylenol. The second that there's a little bit of pain or uncomfortableness, that we just need to mask it with that thing instead of sitting in it and letting the body do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Like, I've got 2 kids. They've never taken a single pharmaceutical drug, a single aspirin, the other things, none. They don't need it. They
Yeah.
need good, healthy breast milk. They
Hmm.
need good rest.
Yes.
They
Thank
need
you.
lots of
Yes.
love, right? Lots of love
Affection.
and
Yeah.
touch and affection and
Yeah.
care, and being close to mommy and daddy as much as possible,
Exactly.
especially through the first few, 4 or 5 years of their life. That's like number one. If you want healthy children, that's what it is.
I love
It's
that you're
not.
saying that because we have a society that conditions us to be like, don't overly hold them or carry them or let them fall asleep on you because they're going to become so dependent. No, they don't. I
No.
breastfed for 2 years and I always picked up my son, did this, and I started to notice like he was so independent on his own. And it's crazy. It works the opposite. Why? Because they get that what's the word I'm looking for? That security.
Yeah.
They get that security that they're okay on their own
Yes.
versus the opposite. If you force them to be on their own so young without that security, then they're actually more insecure and less independent. So it's such a
Yes.
broken system that's teaching us first. It's so I know they say fed is best, but no. We have become so disconnected from the healthiest thing that creates antibodies for a child that's growing into this world, and now they're making formula like it's totally normal when it should not be normalized.
No.
It
No.
used to be like if you can't breastfeed, you're finding someone who can, you know what I mean, in the community and stuff like that. And it's very different because not only that, it's like they're pushing you away from being breastfed. They're doing everything that they can so that people don't even want to. And then they're starting the injections at 2 months of age. So it's like, hey, not only are you not getting the antibodies, now we're just going to throw a bunch of diseases in your body at 2 months, 4 months, and 6 months and hope that your body can fight all of these 6-in-1 diseases, because God forbid you'd ever catch all 6 of them at the same time. And then you're wondering why we have the sickest generation ever. And then people will be like, no, that's not true. People used to die, in their 30s before. Now we have longer lifespan. No, we don't. The only time that people were actually living for shorter periods of time is when you had malnutrition, horrible septic tank system, like septic systems and sewage
Sanitation.
systems
Yeah.
and waters and all that stuff. That's when it was happening.
Yeah.
Before that, many years ago, that wasn't happening. And once that was fixed, that wasn't happening. And they literally brought in childhood and all of these immunizations. I don't like to even use that word because there's nothing immune about that.
No.
But they created that at the exact same time that all of these was declining. And then they said, oh, we're going to introduce this and say that this is exactly why the lifespan increased. Nothing
Yeah.
to do with that. And if it was about lifespan, then you wouldn't have more than 75-80% of people on pharmaceutical drugs by the time that they're 50, being so dependent and having no life quality. There's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
healthy
big
about
big
it.
difference, right?
Yeah.
Quality of life, dealing with a lifelong autoimmune disease, and people don't realize autoimmune diseases are allergies. That's an autoimmune disease. If you suffer from serious allergies
Mhm.
or asthma, skin conditions, all these things, they're directly correlated to, like you say, the immunizations.
Overload of
And
toxins in the body at such a
overload of
young age.
toxins in the body. Yeah. And when you think about, Canada is different than the United States as far as their schedule. Well, like in the
But
United
they're now
States,
introducing the Hep B from the
yeah,
first day of birth too. So like first
and
day of
that's
birth. So
in the US, that's happening on day 2 of life.
they're
And
starting it in
that's
Canada
a
too.
sexually transmitted disease.
Right. It's like, oh, I
Like, if
didn't
that
realize I
doesn't
was a
make mom and
prostitute and my
dad go, "What
child.
is going on?" I don't
Yeah,
know what will. Like, that should be a slap in the face. Like, your child is getting immunized for a sexually transmitted disease. Like, what?
I know. I know.
And
And
then
that's
you
the
got
thing,
the
like people will argue this topic, but like there's so many books. Like when I
yeah,
first went down the rabbit hole, is just I had my son, he was a newborn. I knew nothing about the vaccines or anything. And I just decided to buy my first book called How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. And that really opened up my eyes because it was written in 1984. And
wow.
this is a pediatric doctor who had retired of like 30 plus years and who was talking about like, doctors were closing their practices from the amount of malpractice lawsuits that they were getting from the amount of injuries that were happening from these vaccines and everything. And sure enough, 2 years later is when they passed the law that you can no longer sue the doctor and sue the manufacturers, which for me, I was like, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. If anything is safe and effective, there needs to be liability. And if there's no liability, why? So when you're reading this book in 1984 where he's talking about what's happening here, and then all of a sudden 2 years later, okay, you can no longer sue them because they realize that doctors are leaving the practices and no longer operating because they're having to pay such big fines. It makes you question everything. And it's sad that now people are like, my doctor said so, but parents all the time, every single day are like, I didn't feel right, I didn't want to take them, but
Yeah,
it's just normal, everybody is doing it, so I must do it.
yeah. And then the gaslighting, right? That mom gets when, like, who
Yeah,
knows about their kid better than the mom?
exactly.
Nobody,
Your intuitive guide is there for
right?
a reason. There's nothing better than a mother's instinct. 100%.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
mom knows how baby was yesterday and even the day of. And then as soon as that thing has happened and the incident has taken place, mom knows. And then mom goes talks to doctor and doctor gaslights her. And then her
Yeah,
friends gaslight her. And
exactly. And
everybody
I
gaslights
went
her.
through that myself, right? And then I realized these well visits are nothing but vaccine pushing visits. So I
Yes.
stopped going and I just went to a naturopathic doctor who respected my decision.
Yes. Well, again, you talk about money. It is driven by money.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, every one of them has the right intention. They want to help people. And I'm not going to say that these doctors are evil because that's not it.
No, a
Yeah,
lot of them don't even realize
they
that
don't
they're not
realize
exactly. They think that
they're
they're doing
doing the
something
best
right.
they can at the time with the resources that they have. And that's really
Yes.
important to remember. They want to do good. There's a system built around them that puts them in this box that doesn't let them see outside of it. And then they've done such a good job at building a wall of resistance through the media, through the other doctors, right? Their associations, so that if you question it, you're immediately moved to the other side of the box. You're outside the group now,
And
right? We're
that's
all
why
over here. You're the outcast.
it starts in the education system, right? They've
Yeah.
got 8 years of indoctrinating to this way of thinking. And then their medical, and then this is why the licensing system was created, because you can't
Yes.
have your license unless you follow this way. And if you don't follow this way, you can't have your license. You can't practice. They've made it illegal. And this is why when people are like, wait, how did this happen? You literally follow the money. When you think about it, John D. Rockefeller in the early 1900s is the one that came and removed homeopathy, natural herbalism,
Yep.
all that from the school system,
Yep.
made it so that it's only allopathic medicine. And then what they did is they took over the medical journals, the licensing, they created the licensing parties, the school education system, so that now you can only teach allopathic medicine in the medical systems in the Western world.
Yep.
Only if you practice. Then they started, criminalizing and charging and defaming all of these doctors who are still practicing that to make an example out of them so that people only practice that way. And that's why you only see that form of healing. Even naturopathic doctors, sadly, like, I appreciate them. They're a much better option. But if they're regulated through their license, which most of them are, some of them operate outside of a license, but you can't discuss vaccines. You can't discuss so many things. So it's like you're still limited too. You're a part of the same regulatory system that they're making sure that you legally cannot discuss certain things because they don't want people to know. Your doctor should tell you. When my son was 4 months old and I was like, I'm choosing to refuse the immunizations right now. Well, I literally was like, okay, well, bring me the insert then. Let me see the side effects. Why aren't you telling me the side effects? You're trying to fear mongering me right now into like thinking that my child could die because of this, that, but you're also failing to tell me that a side effect written on that insert is also death. Why aren't you telling that so I can make a decision that I feel is best for me and my family? No, it's non-existent. Why? Because they need to have at least 60 to 70% of their patients vaccinated in order to get their bonus paychecks and their paychecks. So yes, there is a monetary incentive. And you
Yeah.
can't tell me no, because the doctor herself told me that. From her mouth to my ears, she got so frustrated at the 4-month appointment that she left the room. I put my son in his car seat, and she actually had the audacity to come back and tell me, just so you know, because you're not getting it, I don't get paid for him. And I was like, huh? So what are you saying? You don't want me to come back with him? She's like, no, these visits are okay. But if there's like walk-ins and stuff, I said, don't worry, I won't be back. Never walked in. She literally told me that herself. And I think that it was maybe by impulse and not realizing who I am and how much I'm going to spread that information. But she actually told me that. So if anyone were to argue and be like, that's not true, that's fine. I heard it myself. It wasn't a middleman person that's telling me maybe it was true or not.
Yeah. Wow. Such a.
I know we went down the rabbit hole of vaccines. I wasn't expecting that. But the point is, if you want to be healthy, it starts from childhood and what you're putting into your child's bodies and not having a toxic overload in the body. So if you think about it, it's like our foods are GMO and they're filled with pesticides, and our water has chlorine, microplastics, and fluoride in it. And then our air has like
Flame
aluminum and air
retardant.
being sprayed on us and everything, and every dynamic, which it
Yeah.
comes down to what? Having to detox your body as much as possible. It's impossible to be 100% toxic free. It's just not possible.
Sure.
So detoxing is so critical for all of the garbage that we're inhaling, putting on our bodies, in our bodies, everything.
And they use that same fear campaign with the moms prior to you even delivering your child.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I can tell you, when we had our first, my wife was in for a checkup. And what does doctor do? Comes over, we need you to get the flu shot. Right.
Yep.
And she declined, and they pressed. And then the assistant came in and they pressed together on her and just used fear, fear, fear. She got bullied into taking it. Had I been in that room with her, it wouldn't have happened.
That's
but
what they do.
she didn't have the knowledge at the time, wasn't confident about how she felt. And unfortunately, that happened. And that happens to how many moms?
All the time.
And
yeah.
that goes to where? Into the baby at the same time, right?
Yeah. A developing womb. Yeah.
A developing womb. Yeah. So from your, would you mind sharing, what was that first book that opened your mind to?
It's called How to Raise a Healthy
I
Child.
don't know, herbalism, the first one that got you.
It was like a National Geographic book on medicinal herbs. I also have my own medicinal herb guide, which I find is like more simplified, because that, like, when I first bought that book, it was like a little bit so much information overload. But that was the first book that I started, and I've got so many, because like, it's, think about it, right? Any author, like, there's so many different perspectives. So I had studied herbalism and then learned about all these herbs. And then I took this program or read this book, and I'm like learning all new herbs and then seeing what the similarity are between herbs that they really recommend. And so when I created my medicinal herb guide, I kind of gathered all that information. I'm like, this is what actually works. This is what I've tried. This is what I've done, you know? So like, there's just like, you're not going to just buy one book and be like, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
But at least start somewhere, buy something to empower yourself to know that you can heal in your own home. You can have your own medicine cabinet right at home with actual medicine without the side effects, and learn what you can do for you and your kids. And if they've got a cold and a flu, what do? You know, instead of being like, oh my God, I'm just going to suppress the symptoms, because God forbid they're not a good thing, but they are a very good thing, right? A fever is healthy. Optimal fighting point is 100 to 104 degrees. You know, that's a healthy fever. Fevers are needed because there's certain antibodies that don't get activated into your body, in the body, until it hits high temperature. God made no mistake with the immune system. Coughs are healthy. Don't suppress it. It needs to move the mucus and get it out of your chest. If you suppress it often, it can cause bronchial infections. And so it's like, oh, they're tired. Okay, good. They need sleep. That's okay if they're a little bit lethargic. Let them sleep. They don't want to eat. That's normal, because it puts too much pressure on their bodies to digest and break down the foods. They just need fluids and liquids during that time. And so, like, it's nothing that the doctor is ever going to tell you. When you see that, you're like, oh shit, they recovered so much quicker and getting sick less often. And if they do get sick, it's like little sniffles and nothing more than that. But the parents that are constantly Tylenol, Advil, do this, I'm scared, blah, blah, blah. and the worst is how many parents feed their kids so much sugar while they're sick, not even realizing that you're destroying their immune system.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why their kids are sick so often, all the time. And it lingers as well.
And the addiction of the sugar, like that's the
Oh
most
man,
addictive thing around us today. It's not even the narcotics.
you're right.
It is
You're
sugar,
right.
and
It's a
it's buried
refined
in
processed sugar.
everything. Yeah,
Yes,
that refined processed sugar, and people don't realize that's hidden in every one of your condiments. It's hidden in most everything that comes in a box, in a bag, in a can.
exactly.
So that addiction is starting very, very young. And then what does it do from a behavioral standpoint, right? The
ADD.
ups and the downs, the ups
Yes,
and the downs as
exactly.
that sugar spike happens, and then it'll
That's exactly it.
cause poor behavior.
Yeah. And they don't see that. Oh, then your child has ADD. And then what will the doctor do? Prescribe a medication at such a young age instead of being like, let's take a look at the diet. There's obviously something that's created that behavior, too much sugar, maybe overstimulation before bedtime, whatever it is, there's different things, right, that are factoring in. It could be even allergies to foods that they're eating that can create this like this hyperactive activity. But that's why it's like, just know better. Like, think about how they survived, our ancestors and ancestral living, right? That's what it should be. They don't need it's like, okay, fine. Yes, okay, maybe you eat out of a can or a box or whatever, but everything in moderation. Like I always say 80-20. 80% try to do better and be a little bit healthier so that your body can handle the 20% of not so healthy stuff.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And doing as much as you can with what you have as a resource. Some people are in different situations. We always have to appreciate that.
Right.
But at the same time, there are options, and it's about, asking questions and then taking that responsibility. That's a really important one. Your health is your responsibility,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And without our health, we really have nothing else. If you are unhealthy in a way that you're chronically dealing with something, you're
Mhm.
never functioning at your best, and it shows. And if you will take that into your own hands and
Mhm.
grab on to the potential of you and start doing your own learning, trust your instincts, but dig, find resources, find people like you, ask questions, invest in books. Don't even buy books, invest in them.
I know, you're right.
Make those
Investment. Like,
wise
yeah,
choices. Invest in you and your family and your life, because the answers are out there. If you want to heal, look at your finger. You cut it, it'll heal,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. The body,
How
that's
does that
no mistake. Yeah. Like
it
even
happens
people are like,
outside, it happens inside.
exactly. Like even people are like, "Oh, I can't afford it's so expensive to be healthy." Well, it's even more expensive to be sick because people
Yeah.
would even sell their mortgages to get their health back at that point. But it's like it doesn't have to start, "Oh, it's so expensive to buy organic." Yeah, at the grocery store. So connect with your local farmer and it's so much cheaper. Like I pay $500 for the entire season and picking up fruits and veggies and anything extra, they just give it to you every single week. A basket full of fresh fruits, veggies, potatoes, all of that stuff in a basket, eggs, all of it. That's worth it for me.
Yeah.
That's cheaper than it is at the grocery store, and you're getting it fresh on an organic farm. You can find that. And what's
Yeah.
better than supporting a local organic farmer than buying directly from them so that they don't have to pay ridiculous prices to put their stuff on shelves in the grocery store, and the grocery store is profiting off of it, and it's making them pretty much bankrupt. So like there's always ways. It's just people try to create excuses so that they have a reason to not have to follow that path because it's too hard, it's too expensive, it's too, it's not doable. But it is if you want to. And sadly, a lot of them will realize once they actually start to get sick and they're like, okay, I wonder how I got here and how I got sick. I have an aunt who is sick all the time. She's on insulin, she's diabetic and super unhealthy, but will never think about stop eating the amount of sugar that she does. Will never think about her diet, will not walk a day in her life, will not, and I'm just there like, I don't want to hear you complain about your health. And she's always at the doctor's, hoping that the doctor will just give her that one pill that's going to solve her problems.
Yeah, taken all away. And then, she's on 1, then she's on 2, then she's on 4, then she's
Oh,
on 6,
and
right?
then they've got their big bags just with a bunch of pharmaceuticals because that's totally normal to be taking, and then wondering why they have new issues and new side effects and wondering why they're constipated, which constipation is like the number one reason for like cancer and a lot of sicknesses that happen is not evacuating all of the garbage in your body. You should be going minimum once a day, 2 to 3 times. As many meals as you're happening, you should be using the washroom that often, you know? And then they're wondering why they're constipated. Well, because your liver is overloaded with toxins. It's not releasing enough bile to help it all move out of your system. And that's why I say we need to detox. It's so important to detox on the regular, at least once a quarter, whether it's an herbal detox through like herbs like burdock or milk thistle, which are my favorite, or you can do juicing detoxes or just a water cleanse or whatever, you know, which I don't recommend when you're pregnant, of course, wait till after. But the point is detox, clean your liver and your kidneys as much as you can. And then that is like number one step to actually being healthier. Just detox. Let's remove as much toxins. And it's not just about what goes in your body. People don't even realize that the detergent that they're using is straight garbage. It's full of chemicals and endorphin disruptors and carcinogenics, right? And that's sitting on your skin. If you think about it, between your bed sheet and your pajamas and your clothing, 24/7, 365 days a year, you're laying down on carcinogenic chemicals. And that doesn't include your dish soap. Your dish soap that's full of chemicals too, that you're washing your dishes with, and the residue is sitting on your plates and you're eating off of those dishes and you're drinking out of those cups. And that doesn't include that the soap that you're spreading on your body, which is your largest organ, your skin. So when you're in the shower and your pores are open, you're seeping through all those toxins. Do you know what I'm saying? And yes, sometimes it's overwhelming for people, but it's like you don't even realize how you're getting toxins from every way, shape, or form. So what do? Slowly remove and replace and detox your system.
Yeah. It's actually mind-boggling when you really think about everything you just said and all of the places that were bombarded with chemicals.
Right.
And it's like, where do you escape it? You don't. So
that's what I'm saying. You can't be 100% toxic free. It's just
no.
impossible. You can't. So you remove what you can and replace what you can't. And then from there, you detox and protect yourself as much as you can.
And then there's also some important lessons in what you're saying. If that is the case, where it's around us 24/7, 365 for your life, what choices do you have to make on what it is you're buying? And how many people go into Walmart and actually just choose the same detergent their mom used to buy?
Whatever's on sale.
Right? Or whatever's on sale, and not actually look at what is in this product that I'm using that's on my skin, my kid's skin, my husband, wife's skin, everybody around me. And then look at what are those ingredients? Going home to the internet, searching, what are those ingredients? What do they do? What are the known carcinogenic effects from those things? And then analyzing, what's my risk if I'm going to use this? And it sounds like it's a lot of extra work, but it is.
It creates kids asthma. Like the detergent alone creates asthma and like ADD and everything, because they don't realize it, especially the asthma, right? Because you're breathing in those particles for a developing lung. It's crazy. Like I've done consultations, because I still do consultations. I have done so many, from the parents alone being like, I can't believe the improvements I saw by just changing my detergent.
Yeah.
Just my detergent alone. Because they're like, I eat healthy and I exercise. And I'm like, okay, it's easy for us to focus on what we're putting into our bodies and what we're doing with our bodies, but what are you using in your house?
Yes.
And all of them, I'm like, what detergent do you use? Tide? Gain? And I was like, there's the issue. Let's remove that and let me know in about 1 month how things are going. And she's like, oh my goodness, like
cleaners, right? How many poisonous, extremely toxic cleaners do people use, again, because of fear?
Yes.
Vinegar.
You can literally just use vinegar water and it's better.
That's all we use. Vinegar, apple cider vinegar and water and everything. And it works great.
Yeah.
And our kids, if they happen to drink some of the apple cider vinegar,
it's okay. Yeah.
They're not going to die.
Yeah.
But if they get a hold of that bleach or that other industrial strength cleaner that most people have under their sinks, it'll kill your children.
Yes, exactly.
And it's like, where do we get so lost, right?
Well, it comes down to, profitability, right? Corporations. And if you think about it, the same big pharmaceutical companies own a lot of these products. They're all running under the same brand, same entity kind of controls all of them, but they throw and create different brands to make it seem like you have an option when essentially it's still a monopoly created by the same big corporations. Yeah. And so it's like, you just have to start somewhere. Okay, what are 3 products that I can change in my home? Start there. What's 3 things I could change in my home? Okay. And without being overwhelmed, because a lot of people are like, oh my God, like how intoxicated am I then if I'm not even thinking about this? And this, Matt, doesn't even include, imagine living this way and then people are just drinking alcohol on the regular.
Oh, yeah.
Where their liver is like, I'm dying here,
Yeah.
literally dying here, and you're just intoxicating me more and more and more every single day, you
Yes.
know? And so it's like, replace 3 things and start detoxing your liver. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, don't drink. I don't drink. Obviously, once you know the
I gave
basics
up
of it, I
drinking
don't
too.
drink. But
Yep.
at least detox. If you're just constantly filling your body with, toxic chemicals and things that are poisonous, at least try to flush it out as much as you can. And then people wonder, like, oh, I have bad skin. Why am I getting eczema? Well, because if you're not detoxing, what happens is your body tries to release it through your pores and it surfaces on your skin, and you're going to start having breakouts because the toxins are coming out through your pores.
Yeah. You make a good point about alcohol. And I gave that up. It'll be 2 years this May.
Good for you.
And what a difference. What a difference in
Mental
how I feel
clarity,
overall.
happiness, everything, everything. It's insane.
Energy,
Yeah.
my ability to heal. Like it's a pure toxic poison.
Yeah, and
That
it's completely legal. It's totally okay, but God forbid you get raw milk.
right?
Like, that's what I'm saying. This is where like, something's very broken. Raw milk, that's amazing for you, and then you've all of a sudden have alcohol is perfectly legal. That's known to be poison. Raw milk, known to be very healthy for you. Lots of benefits, helps with autism, asthma, eczema, all types of things, builds true gut flora, but that's illegal in
Well, Tanya,
Canada.
what about my 1 glass of red wine a day?
That's a myth too.
I
That's a
know.
myth. That's a total, and it's crazy because people are like, "Oh, I was told." No, that was one bogus thing that came out to try and get people into drinking, and they ran with it. But that
Yep,
was totally debunked in so many different studies on how dangerous
totally.
that actually is.
Yeah, totally.
And that's
And
unfortunately, like, we're in a society where, yes, it's a lot of depression, right? There's a lot of stress. It's high stress, and they've made it so that both parents have to be working, and if not, then everything's overly stimulated, and there's no more just like chill time and relaxation time and just quality time and being present. And so they drink or smoke their way into, a happy state, which is actually much worse because now you're addictive. You don't know how to be happy in your normal state and your normal surroundings. And this is how they keep everyone overly stimulated and not paying attention, and then not able to ask questions because they're just so busy. And then by the time they get home, they're totally brain dead. And there's just such a ripple effect, which is exactly why I created this, what I call the healer 6-figure formula, on helping people who have a passion for the health and wellness industry to create an online business with that knowledge. And I walk them through every step, how to build your social media without running ads, how to create the products, everything is like taught to you, because this is the only way we could be like, I want to make enough money so that I could work an hour, maybe 2 a day, and that's it. I don't have to be stuck to this 9 to 5 job to be able to pay this, where husband and wife have to be working. And then, you're sending your kids off from the age of 1 years old, if not younger, and
yeah,
having somebody else raise them, and there's no more family connection. And then you're wondering why couples are fighting more than ever, because they're so stressed, and they're drinking and they're doing all this stuff, and then they're no longer communicating, and then they're getting divorces, and now you're breaking the family industry, like the family household. And it's just, when you're aware of it, you realize how much they're trying to break up the things that are most valuable.
yeah,
And so empower yourself, figure out how you can create your own business and do your own thing on the side without letting the corporate system and this, vicious cycle destroy you and your family.
yeah. It's been very, very eye-opening for myself. I was already very well aware of some of these things. Like for me, I worked in a steel yard in 2001. So September 2001, I was working in a steel yard where we bent and cut steel that went
Mhm.
into skyscrapers and big bridges and industrial buildings. So when that event took place, myself and everybody that worked in the steel yard with me, we're all like, no, that what just happened there with those planes and those buildings came down, that wasn't a true story. Something else happened there. And that made, me really begin to open my mind to what am I shown in one place through the television
Mhm.
and through media, and what is really going on, and
Right.
what do I need to start doing to ask better questions, to look for answers in a wider variety of places instead of just taking what I'm told in one place.
Right.
As I started to do that, you begin to peel back the layers of manipulation that are happening around us. Our history is a lie.
Right.
Much of it is a lie. The things we're told about, through the school system. Have you ever used like 95% of the things you were taught through school? I haven't.
Everything was learned afterwards. Buying the books and doing everything you're learning afterwards. 100%. Yeah.
Yes. When I discovered that I could learn about what I want to learn about, that was a massive eye opener for me. And then I just became a voracious student and learner to the point of, I'm reading books every single day. I'm listening to audiobooks every single day. I listen to podcasts every day. Like I am trying to consume knowledge about things I'm interested in learning about. And then even going to things I'm not super interested in, just to keep my spectrum as wide as I possibly can, to try to not get bogged down into like the echo chamber of stuff. Right.
But, and I'm the same. Like I don't watch TV. I don't watch movies because why? First of all, I see the subliminal in everything.
Yes.
I can't even watch it, but it's like, pick up a book, do something more productive versus you go to work, you're so tired. So you're numbing your brain watching a TV show that's, dumbing you down even more, eating from I watched this video that's like literally like you're working in a box, looking at a box, eating from a box, living out of a box, and then wondering why you're depressed, you're anxious, you know what I mean? All of these things. Well, it's because it's not natural for a human. You need to be out in nature. You need to be connecting with people. You need to be interacting. You need to be eating from the earth as much as you can. So, and like you said, asking these questions is so critical. Just ask the questions. Don't just follow blindly. Ask. Sometimes it's overwhelming for people, but when you realize there's a whole community of us, it's not very overwhelming, and I find it's important to also have faith because the people are losing themselves in a world where they're removing God from every equation instead of having faith.
Faith and courage. Yeah. We got to have the faith and courage. There's definitely some very important things for people to hold on to from that standpoint. That's one of the things that, the Freedom Convoy did for a lot of people is it gave them hope and showed them they're not alone. Right. Because it prior to that, the messaging and the encouragement of stay home, save lives, stay apart, keep your cover on your face, all of that stuff makes people feel more and more isolated and alone in their negative thoughts. And because of that, and everybody felt alone, it made people lose hope. But as you saw this thing gather momentum across the country from both directions and other parts of the world, it showed so many of us that we're not in this alone, that we're not.
And so many feel the exact same way as you.
Yeah, exactly. And then as that began to pile on, all of a sudden now you see so many more people vocalizing how they really felt because now they realize I do have other people standing with me. I don't need to be alone on this island and take the arrows in the back. Right. We're in a time where leadership is critically important right now. We're going through some very challenging times. I think it's the best time to be alive. It's exciting because through chaos, right? Through the chaos and the collapsing of things, that's when we get to build anew and create anew. And I'm extremely excited about what you're doing to help empower and create the belief that people are looking for, that they can actually take their health into their own hands, and then empowering people who are passionate about that to go out there and share with others.
Exactly.
Kudos for you for doing that. And then I'll do a little shameless plug with what we're doing here at Food Forest Abundance. As you mentioned, the importance of getting into nature and getting closer to your own food and growing your own food. Well, that's what we're doing. We're working with people around the world. We haven't even been in business for 2 years. We've done over 700 food forest designs in over 40 countries. Those are people now that are taking the science of permaculture, which stands for permanent agriculture, and implementing a permanent agricultural system onto their property that will produce food for them without the poisons. And it doesn't need to replace all of their food. It's like you say, if they can just have a little bit and then add a little bit more and then add a little bit more, those things all snowball. They start making you feel better. And when you start to feel better, you look for other things that you can do to help you feel even better. So with what you got going on, what we got going on, with all the other people out there that have ideas and have the faith and courage and hope that they can make a difference, I want you all to know you are. You are. So Tania, what else do we want to, where else do we want to go right now? You've, over the past few years, this has really put you into a position where you're standing up as a mom and as a inspiration. You're fighting for other people and their health and their way of life, trying to expose the truth. How's that impacted you personally? And then, your family, and then what has it kind of made you feel overall going forward?
Well, when I first started speaking out in like April 2020, where not many people were doing it, obviously, it was a little hard at first because it was like a lot of backlash. And eventually, though, I was like, I'm not doing this for the people that are against it, because I was getting messages, private messages, left, right, and center of people sharing their personal stories of, my father, my mother, my brother died in the hospital alone. I couldn't see them. This happened. They killed themselves because of this. And the more I got these messages, the more I knew I just had to speak out against it. And I didn't even have the intention of having my business blow up at that time. I just knew that I had to speak out against this. And I knew that people were almost relying on me being the voice to something that they felt like they needed to get out. And maybe by the grace of God, because I was so courageous during that time, even with all the pushback, it just fell the way it was meant to. I just kept getting the signs on what I next have to do and empower people into natural healing and how to do that. And one thing led to another. And that's where I just eventually, I guess things just did better for me. Things went well because I felt like I was doing God's work, You're showing me and I just need to put that out there. I'm not doing it to be like, oh, I want to do this because I'm just money focused. No, I was doing what I knew I had to do and somehow the money came. And I think that's the difference with a lot of people being like, I'm focusing on the money. I need a paycheck. I need this. I need that. I'm going to stay in my job because I need the money. I'm going to take the vaccine because I need the money. Like, versus thinking like, how can I be of service to people? And I find when that shift really happens, it's like, wow, okay, the world is showing me what I need to be doing. And somehow it's working out even better than I had anticipated, and so many people have such an incredible amount of knowledge and they think that, well, I don't have a doctorate. I don't have a certificate. I don't have this background. And it's like, so I can't do anything with it. And it's like, that's not true. Like, think about where you were before you started on this journey, right? So all you're doing is helping someone that's one step behind you, right? That you're trying to bring to this light now. And so, like I said, there's some people that I work with that have an incredible amount of knowledge, but they're like, but I don't have it on paper. I'm like, but you have 15 years of research and this is how you raised your child. That's plenty of information to be able to help a ton of people. And most importantly, it's not just about the knowledge, it's about the story. And that's my biggest thing. As I tell people, it's your story that's going to resonate with the people and what's really going to grow your audience. How did you get here? Why did you come this way? And all that stuff. And people resonate with that, right? Because they think, well, there's so many people doing it. Yeah, you're right. But I don't buy just one book and think that I'm going to learn everything from it. I like to buy different ones because the way it's articulated and the different perspectives, you absorb it differently. And it's going to be the exact same way with other people in yours. And so, so like you had posted, that's my free Facebook group. It's my free community where I'm sharing resources and a bunch of tips and all that stuff on how to get yourself started online, how to turn your knowledge and your passion into profits by doing what you love and servicing, and helping people by putting out a bunch of free content and how to convert that into people buying your stuff that you're creating. And so I feel like that's the way that really needs to go.
Mm-hmm. And some interesting information has just come to light. I don't know if you saw this, but you know who ICANN is, right? ICANN Decide. That's the Dell Big Tree and the Highwire. So
I have their emails.
Did you see the Freedom of Information Act thing that just came out? They released it last Thursday. ICANN filed, it's over 3 years ago now, a Freedom of Information Act request with the CDC and the NIH about, they wanted to see all the studies that they've done around aluminum, right? That's put in these vaccines as an adjuvant. And for anyone who doesn't know, they say they use the adjuvants because it gives the body a 10,000 time increase in immune response. Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd think because they love to gaslight us that there would just be loads of these studies that should easily be found. Well, turns out after 3 years of them looking through all of their records, they found 100% of zero.
I know. It's crazy. Yes. And because there's
Zero.
no liability, they don't have to fix their products or change anything about their products. So since 1986, they're not fixing anything. They're
Nope.
just going to keep putting it into you. It doesn't matter how much is in it. No, none.
And so they've determined that it's 25 micrograms consumed through the mouth of aluminum is safe. Okay, that's the number that they say is good. Well, it turns out there's 250 micrograms being injected into babies, not just
But
one.
what's even worse is, hold on, you just said it.
Repeatedly.
You're talking about the 500 through the mouth. Do you know how many layers of natural defense it has to go before it actually hits the bloodstream?
Yeah,
250 skipping all of those
all of it.
natural defenses and going right to the bloodstream is way worse.
Way worse. And again, it just, the point of what I'm saying here for everybody is this should just remind you, you cannot trust the regulators. You cannot trust big pharma, even the government at the moment. You can't trust them. They are not doing things from an ethical standpoint, and they're not doing things with your best interest in mind. They do things for the people with the money.
Exactly.
Period.
Money and power. Yep.
The money is the driver. And if you don't have the money to play at the lobbying table, your concerns are not taken into account. And if you don't believe this stuff yet, you got to give your head a shake.
Exactly.
They're not doing things for you and your kids and your family and to protect grandma or anything like that.
Right.
It's about making money. So, Tania, any last words? Where can people find you? I know we've got your Facebook group up here. We had your website up a little earlier. Anything else
I mean, on any social media, I'm Tania the Herbalist. I'm primarily the most active on Instagram and in this Facebook group. But you can find my links to everything on any of the social platforms. So yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You could find me there. So
all right.
Tania the Herbalist.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. It was lovely to speak with you. And thank you for, just standing in your power and sharing your truth. We need more women like you standing up for their families. I want to see mama bears, man.
Yeah.
We need that stuff right now, protecting the kids, because the kids are the future and they're coming after them.
You're right. They are. They're coming after the kids. Look at the drag queens and everything. That's a topic for another day, but yes.
Right. So, hey, everybody, go follow Tania. Visit her website. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you found value in this conversation, please share it far and wide. And I got an update. Jim was out fishing on the lake. He has lost his phone. So that's why Jim wasn't joining us this morning. I think it fell in, and maybe a fish will be caught on camera or something like that. We'll get to see later.
Awesome.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have an amazing day.